In this video, I have a problem from the LSU math contest in the year 2003, and it asks us to find x being a whole number, the possible ones digits of x if the tens digit of x squared is 5. So there's a couple different ways that we can go about doing this problem, but I think the best way is just to look at the last two digits of x that we'll call DC, and then multiply them together and see what we get. And we only want to look at the last two digits here because if we look at the hundreds place, even if we multiply the hundreds place by a ones digit, we're still going to get something in the hundreds place. And we're only looking at the tens digit and the ones digit here. So let's multiply these two digits by each other. We'll multiply DC by DC and see what we get. So here we get C squared in the ones digit, DC, or D times C, in the tens digit, and then we'll get a 0 here, and we'll get C times D again in the tens digit and D squared in the hundreds, but that doesn't really matter. So we're going to get 2 times CD here and C squared as our ones digit. But notice that C squared can end up carrying into the tens digit, or maybe even the hundreds digit, and so could 2 times CD. So the way we want to figure out this problem is by taking this 2 times CD and looking at only its ones digit, because it's in the tens column, and this number C squared and look only at its tens digit, because it's in the ones column, and add those together and set that number equal to 5. So we want the ones digit of 2CD, and I'll go ahead and make a note of that right here, that we only want the ones digit. That's good. And then we also want the tens digit of C squared. And I'll go ahead and put that here as well. And this is all equal to 5. But because D and C are both digits, we know that they have to be between 0 and 9. But because this number is of the form 2CD, we know that this number here has to have a tens digit that is odd. So let's go ahead and make a chart for C and C squared and figure out when C is odd. So when C is 1, C squared is 0, 1, but 0 is not odd, so this is not a possibility. When C is 2, C squared is 0, 2, but again, 0 is not an odd number. Same with 3, that's 0, 9. 4 is 1, 6, so C could be equal to 4 because we have an odd number in this tens digit here. 5 is 2, 5, so that doesn't work. 6 is 3, 6, so 6 could also work because we have a 3 in the tens digit here. And we've run out of room down here, but 7 and 8 also don't work because we have 49 for 7 squared and 4 is not an odd number. And 64 also doesn't work because 6 is not an odd number. And likewise, 9 also doesn't work because 81 is not an odd number. So these are our only two possibilities for this number C. That is being 4 and 6. So let's go ahead and just look at that in two cases after we've cleaned up the board. Okay, so I've moved our setup over here to the left side, and that tells us the ones digit of 2 times C times D plus the tens digit from C squared is equal to 5. And then we have this combination of digits DC equals X. And I went ahead and wrote down that these are digits, not in multiplication here for X. So now we wanted to look at the two cases, one where C is equal to 4 and the other where C is equal to 6. Let's look at the C equals 4 case first. So this is going to be 2 times 4 times D. That's by plugging in this C into this term right here. And then we're going to have 16 in this term right here. But we only want the tens digit from this right here, so we're only going to add 1. And this is all going to be equal to 5. But now let's solve this for D. We'll have 8D plus 1 equals 5. And then we'll have 8D equals 4. So you might say that doesn't make a whole lot of sense because we're talking about D being a digit here. And this equation would result in giving us D equals 1/2. But remember, we're only talking about the ones digit from this term here. So let's go ahead and make a chart of 8D and D and see what we get from there. So if D is equal to 1, that gives us 8, but 8 is not equal to 4, so that doesn't work. If D is equal to 2, 2 times 8 is 16, but 6 isn't equal to 4. Remember, we're only comparing the ones digit. 3 times d is 24, and that does work because we are looking at this ones digit here only. And so this works because our ones digit is equal to 4 in this case, which is what we're looking for here. So if c equals 4, then d equals 3, and we have our number x equals 34. So that's one possibility. But let's keep going because we could get more possibilities with this c equals 4 case. So if d equals 4, that means this is 32, but that doesn't work. D equals 5, this is 40, and that doesn't work. 6 also doesn't work, that gives us 48. 7 doesn't work, that gives us 56. But 8 does work because that gives us 64. So we also have another solution here, that is x equals 84. I'll let you guys check d equals 9 and d equals 0 as homework, but these are the only two solutions that we'll get from this c equals 4 case. Now let's move on to the c equals 6 case. Now we moved on to the c equals 6 case, and we're just going to go ahead and plug in these numbers right away. So we have 12 times d, that's from 2 times 6, and we're not simplifying this down to the ones case yet because we want to multiply 12d first and then figure out our ones. But we will go ahead and simplify this tens digit down. C squared is equal to 3 in the tens digit, and that's all equal to 5. But now 12 times d is equal to 2. And now we can think about this only being the ones digit. So we want to make a chart again, d and 12d. So when d is equal to 1, this is equal to 12. But this satisfies what we're talking about because the ones digit here is equal to 2, which is exactly what we want over here. So this solution gives us x equals 1, that's from this d right here, and 6. So that is one solution that we get from the c equals 6 case. Let's keep going. D being equal to 2 gives us 24, but that doesn't work because the ones digit here is 4 and we're looking for 2. Likewise for 3, this is 36. 4 gives us 48. 5 gives us 60. And 6 gives us 72, which again works. So that gives us another solution, x equals 66. I'll let you guys check the cases where d is equal to 7, 8, or 9, or 0, but these are the only two solutions that we're going to get from this c equals 6 case. So let's go ahead and clean up the board and we'll summarize what we've done. Okay, so what we've done is we've taken x and we split it up into its digits d and c, and then we multiplied them together to get this combination so that x squared is 5 in the tens digit. And we disregarded everything hundreds place and higher because multiplying those terms only give us things in the hundreds place or higher back. So doing this, we found that 2 times dc in the ones place, because this all occurs in the tens place when we multiply x to itself, and c squared in the tens place, because this is the resultant when we multiply x by itself in the ones place, gives us 5 in the tens place for x squared, which was our parameter up here. And so by multiplying c to itself, we found the only combinations where we got an odd number were 4 and 6 in the tens place. And so using those two cases, we found these 4 solutions after calculating d in each of those cases using this equation right here. And I'll go ahead and leave it as homework for you guys to check these 4 solutions and make sure that none of my arithmetic was bad. Really quickly, I just want to point out that we did a little bit more than was asked in this question. All we were asked to do in this problem was find the ones digits of x, but what we ended up doing was finding all the possible ones and tens digits of x in this case.